Welcome to the Dana Grant Show, where heart-centered stories, authentic connections, real talk, and real action come together. I'm your host, Dana Grant, and I believe in the boundless potential within each of us. Join me as we dive into transformative conversations that not only inspire growth, but compassion with a deeper understanding of ourselves and the world around us. Let's embark on this journey together, unlocking all the power within and creating a life of purpose and fulfillment. This is the Dana Grant Show, where your story matters and your voice is heard, and I cannot wait to dive in. Welcome to the Dana Grant Show, where we are dedicated to just telling heart-centered stories, connection, inspiration, uplifting transformation, everything you need to get through this week, this day. And today, I can tell you, will not disappoint. I have with me today Dr. Elayna Fernández, and she's going to leave you altered. Just knowing her has left me altered. My heart, my body vibrates. She is so full of love and energy. She is the founder of Positive Mom. She is a Latina storyteller. She is, not only are you going to find her in Success Magazine, she's a 5-time TED Talker. She has been on NBC, ABC, CBS, Yahoo, CNN, Fox. I could go on and on. But as a story strategist, there is so much. She's got the Presidential Lifetime Achievement Award and the Woman of Influence by Success Magazine. But more importantly, she has overcome incredible obstacles, and I am thrilled to just share space with her today and have her unfold and tell her remarkable story. So welcome, Elayna, Dr. Elayna Fernández. Welcome to the Dana Grant Show. We are so honored to have you here. Hello, Elayna, Dr. Elayna Fernández. We are so stoked to have you today. You are such an overcomer, overachiever, 5-time TEDxer, ABC, NBC, the Positive Mom. I could just go on and on. The Presidential Award. It's remarkable what you've achieved and where you started. And we're going to start there today. And welcome.
Thank you, Dana. It's such an honor to be here with you. I admire you so much, and just to be in your presence is uplifting to me.
Oh, thank you. I feel the same way. I think the listeners are going to get so much out of this today, because you have just not only overcome, but exceeded, and you keep exceeding. And as we were talking before we got started, you're like, yep, I'm off to Boston for another keynote. And it's like, yeah, go, Elayna, go.
Oh, thank you.
So take me back, because your story is both inspiring, powerful. Take me all the way back to share your story. Let's start there. Where you want to start, we'll start there.
Yeah. So I think what's coming to my heart is 5-year-old Elayna.
Mm.
Now, I remember being laying on my bed, going to sleep that night, looking up at my tin roof, right? A rusted tin roof, and saying the prayer, God, please, 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 I want to die. And that was the very first time that I struggled and battled suicidal thoughts, because life just felt like too much. And I didn't feel like I belonged with everyone else in this planet Earth. And so I think that's the visual that I connected with right now. And it really depicts the kind of childhood that I had, and in two ways. Number one, waking up and being disappointed that I was still alive. But number two, even though it was hard for me to want to face another day, or have to face another day, as I probably felt like in that moment, I also gave it 100%. And I also started processing that pain. And I did that then and now through writing, through poetry, through storytelling. And
Wow.
I believe that that's kind of push and pull that we all go through in life, knowing that it's so hard to be in this life experience, that there's so much pain and there's so much heartache and there's so much struggle, and yet that there's a voice inside of us that tells us there's more. There's more. If you hang in there, there's a gift that is there for you, and there are ways that you can hang in there and not lose the battle.
Did you feel like God was there for you during that battle? That 5-year-old, I mean, when she was praying to.
You know, it's interesting because I felt like there was something there, but I didn't know to call it God.
Did you
So when I
felt some
say
connection?
yes, and I felt that I was being guided,
Mm.
and the first moment where I really felt that there was a God that knew me and not
Mm.
some God that people talked about was when I was 7 years old. And I always tell this story because it's my favorite story to tell. It's
Oh,
like the happiest story of my childhood.
love this. Gotta hear this. Gotta
And
hear this.
so I grew up in a slum, and every day we would wake up, my brother and I, and the kids in the neighborhood. We would go to this river and, barefoot and really early in the morning because it was the Caribbean, so it was really hot. If you waited until it was too hot, it was going to really deplete you. So we would fetch water. We would have a can on top of the rag on our head, and then we have 2 gallons. And I always felt like I was too weak and I didn't do it right. And my can was half empty when I came home, and I was drenched in sweat. And we knew that as soon as we got home, we had a little window in which we could go to our favorite place in the whole world, which was right behind our little hut. We had a landfill. And
Mm.
I always joke with my kids and say, a land filled with goodies.
Yeah.
Because we didn't have toys and books and, the things that the regular kids in town had. But that was where everybody threw their trash, and we would go and find trinkets and, artifacts, I call them. And one day, I was 7 years old, like I said, I found this magazine and I started looking at it, Dana, and I was fascinated with all those pictures because it was something that I had never seen before. Kids who had it all. They had a happy family, they had,
Mm.
you know, really good toys like, soccer balls and like books, brand new books that they were reading, and they were having a good time. They were eating yummy foods, and they had
Mm.
jeans and tennis shoes, which was my dream.
Wow. Wow.
And and I felt like God spoke to me in that moment because I looked at my brother and I said, you know, in order to have this life, we need to learn this language. The magazine was in English.
Oh,
And
wow.
and I recognized English because my dad spoke little words here and there, like beautiful and good morning and
Right.
all of this, broken English because he loved the music by the Carpenters and the Beatles and the Eagles.
Yeah.
So he was in love with American music and British music and in English. And so I therefore knew that this language and it was English. And for 4 years after that, I hustled. I did, storytelling, tutoring, poem writing for people, breakup letters, makeup letters, be my friend letters, gossip letters. I, use my writing skills and my pretty handwriting to make money. And with each coin, I knew that I was going to enroll myself in English classes, which I did at 11. And by the
Wow.
time I was 15 and graduated high school, I was already teaching English as a second language in the same center where I had studied. So that's when I began to see a way out. And I knew that I was being taken to a different level of experience. And I felt that that vision was given to me to really connect with who I really was and what I really deserved.
Right. Wow. There's no other word to respond, but wow, that's quite a story. And, I look at what you've created and I was going to start where you started with positive mom. And I'm thinking we needed to go back all the way. And you know what we talked about it just before you came on, that you just flew in from India and you
Yeah.
still had the energy to show up here. And I think you're 3 hours ahead of me. It's late in the day. It's like, and you're cheerful. You were ready on time. I mean, what a blessing you are.
Oh, thank you. Well, I would not want to be anywhere else than
Yeah.
here with you and with our audience. And
Yeah.
coming back from India, I spoke with my 11-year-old daughter and
Mhm.
to 700,000 people. And
Wow.
those people just give you energy. They're beautiful, and being in that energy,
Mm.
I have energy for for
Yeah.
years.
Oh, I love that. I say, yeah, you're still vibrating off the
Yeah.
energy. So what led you to create Positive Mom?
Well, when I was 24 years old, I made the decision to move to the United States. And that was a very hard decision for me.
Mm.
And for many, many years, I came to regret that decision.
Ah.
Yeah, it's really an interesting story that doesn't seem to match the regular story that
Well,
everybody.
we want to hear that story. That's a story I want to hear. That's a story
Yeah.
we have to talk about.
Yeah. So fast forward, knowing English opened so many doors for me back in
Mhm.
the Dominican Republic where I'm from. And by the time I was about 21 years old, I had already bought my own home. I had a fantastic job. I also speak Italian. That's something that I learned later on. And so I had all of this success, and I wanted to be in my country, had a lot of opportunities. And because I kept on coming to the United States as a work and travel program participant, which means I'm a nerd and a geek. And so when you
The
have,
best kind.
thank you. So when you have good grades and on top of that you speak English, they choose you for coming to the United States every summer or on the summer. You don't have to do every summer, but I did the summertime coming here and working and traveling, which I did, and I loved it. I loved meeting new people, going to new states, learning the cultures of different
Mhm.
states and cities and
Oh,
towns.
yes.
So love the United States, met who would become my husband. And
Mhm.
so in 2001, we got married in the Dominican Republic. He was gonna live there. That was the plan. But because of 9/11 and, being a military family, I moved here instead. And I kind of went against what I wanted to do. And I say I kind of because the thing is that I didn't know to connect with the part that wanted that.
Mm.
I want to always say we judge ourselves and our decisions based on what we know now that we wish we knew then. And
Yeah.
so the reason I say I kind of is because I didn't know that that was me talking to me. Now
Yeah.
I know that that was me talking to me and saying, don't go. Your goals are here. Your life is here. This is a decision that you're making based on societal pressure and what you're supposed to do as a woman according to everybody else. This
Right.
is not your choice, or it is your choice, but it is not the decision that you're
Mm.
making. And so I moved to the United States. Shortly after that, became pregnant with my first daughter. Shortly after that, became pregnant with my second daughter. They're 1 year and 7 days apart. And
Wow.
so during that time, I experienced a lot of abuse. I
Mm.
experienced a lot of isolation. I
Mm.
experienced a lot of discrimination
Mm.
that mirrored to me what, the abuse was communicating to me. So all of this was very demoralizing to me, not only because it was humiliating and it was hard and it was painful, but because it was familiar.
Right.
It was exactly what I've been running away from my entire life ever since I was 5 years old.
Yeah.
And it seemed that my life came back to violence and came back to violence. And I didn't know how to get out of that cycle. But in this country, outside of my comfort zone, away from my family, and we're talking about 2001 to 3, where we didn't have, apps and internet connection,
Yeah.
social
Yeah.
media. Um, Even the phone plans are completely different, and
Yeah. Yeah.
let alone video calling and all of that. I'm very blessed by technology that I can still connect with my family back home
Right.
uh, in this form now. But at that time, I felt just trapped and really imprisoned and really unseen, invisible, misunderstood. And after in 2004, I made an agreement with my then husband and the father of my two first daughters. I have four.
Yes,
Uh,
I know. Yeah.
yeah, and we moved to Florida, where he proceeded to leave, and I became homeless with my two daughters,
Mm.
experienced houselessness with them. And I again came back to, I don't belong in this world. This life is too hard. I need to escape this. I don't have it figured out. I don't know how to be a mom. I don't know how to be a single mom. I don't have any support system. And as I was thinking about just ending it all, and by ending it all, I mean the pain, I mean the disappointment, I mean the sense of imprisonment, because we never want to end our life. We love life. What we want to end is the pain.
Yeah.
And and as I contemplated that, then I had that connection again. And
Mm.
it's so raw and real to me, because I was shown that magazine picture again.
Mm.
And say, Elayna, this vision wasn't for you. And I had already thought that, like, this never happened for me. I never had that childhood that I wanted to build. And
Right.
I didn't even think that it didn't make sense for me to give myself the childhood that I needed. But it
Mhm.
was that voice said to me, that is their childhood. That is what's possible. This is why you learned English in a slum where no one spoke English, where it didn't make sense. You've been guided step by step. Every opportunity is because you were going to be here in this country. Knowing English is the doorway for your success, and your children are absolutely going to have that childhood that you didn't have. And so in that moment, I looked up, at my little babies, and I came up for, I had been in the fetal position, just feeling the cold tile and feeling the darkness dissipate. And I just sat up and felt immense gratitude for having a tool that I could see would bring me to the other side.
What
And
was that? Yeah. To articulate that tool, what did that feel like?
well, it felt like, and that's how the positive mom came to be, because it felt like I don't have a to-do list. I have no idea what I'm going to do,
Right.
but I have a to-be list.
Mm.
And the first to be was be positive, which is,
Mm. Yeah.
where the positive mom came from. And so
Yeah.
I wrote down all of my B's. And, I had read the Bible from cover to cover. That was the only book that we owned. It was an old Bible. And so I remember that passage. And even if you don't read the Bible, you kind of know, like, blessed are those who are the peacemakers and the,
Yeah.
all of these qualities that we can be. And it doesn't cost anything to be that. And as a matter of fact, I don't make to-do lists. I make a to-be list every single day. Since that time in 2004, it'll be 20 years next month. And so I started to write, and I remember that writing was the tool that I was given at 5 years old. And
Mhm.
that's how I started publishing. My blog started in GeoCities. I don't know if anybody's old enough that's listening to know what that is.
I'm sure they do. They are. I'm sure they are.
Then it evolved to Blogger, then evolved to WordPress. And, ever since the first blog post, which was, I didn't even know it was called a blog, right?
Yeah.
Um,
But you were
I
doing it.
started, yes, I started to see that it resonated with people that they were not alone, but also that I was not alone in the world, because that's
Mm.
what sharing our stories does. It really
Connection.
connects us to ourselves, to each other, but also to a higher view of who we are and what's available for us. So that's how the blog started, believe it or not. It started
You just, I mean, I
gardening.
actually have, you can't see because I have long sleeves on. I have goosies on my arms, goosies. I mean, it just, I don't know whether to cry or I'm so full of emotion. It's such a powerful story.
Yeah.
I mean, it just takes me out of i- any form of grief, any form of anything, and just drop to my knees in gratitude. Um,
Mm,
it
yes.
really, it's probably the most impactful thing I've ever heard. And
Mm,
what I really want to reframe is I don't ever make a to-do list. I'm not a to-do list person either. But when you said to-be list, you goosey's now all over my body because I say that every day. I don't have things to do, but I have things to be. I know who I've
yeah.
been, and I have things to be that I haven't been yet. And when
Yeah.
you said that, I thought total alignment, just like your
Wow.
name, just like alignment from Elayna.
Yeah.
Alignment from Elayna. Ooh, wouldn't that be a good blog? Alignment from Elayna.
I love it.
I
Goose.
know. That's
We should.
clever. That's
That's
clever. I would probably
inspiring.
read that. Yeah, little light on there. So from there, you created Positive Mom. And what were the pivotal moments when you went from that storyteller to now you're on TEDx stages? I mean, you're taking quantum leaps.
Yeah, it feels like that, and I think that when you follow your light,
Mm,
it really illuminates the path for yourself, but for others as well. And
right.
so, I didn't even know this when I started blogging or anything like that. But my name means bright light. And
Of course it
one
does.
of
Of
the,
course it does. Mm,
yeah, my dad, he
yeah.
had that name for me. And I remember just being, starting to get really successful with the blog. It reaches 168 countries,
Wow.
moms from all over the world sending messages and all of that. And it started to feel scary.
Mm,
Like, you know, everybody is reading my stories and reading what I have to say. And of course, there's the occasional troll that
yeah.
says something that,
Right.
you know, gets on or hits that chord. And so I remember just feeling a very, I would say, warm feeling that I needed to continue to spread my light and to make it as bright as possible, no matter what the consequences.
Mm,
And and then I started to think like I'm gonna just drop the consequences because I had been focused on the consequences. And it's
mm,
like even that, even in the way that we frame our dreams, it makes
right.
such a big difference. And so I just said, I'm gonna drop the consequences and ignore them because they're not relevant. And so
I
I
love that you said that.
Yeah, I think that that's the imposter syndrome, the self-doubt, the limiting beliefs that come is usually because we think about some consequence that may or may not happen,
Yeah.
some consequence that is imagined about what they, and we don't know
Yeah.
who they are, right? What they
Yeah.
would say or they would do or they would
Right.
judge. So it's that fear
Yeah.
voice. And so I
Yeah.
said, I'm going to shine my light as bright as I can, period. And so,
Period.
period.
Love
And
that.
in Spanish, because I say it in Spanish, when it's something like so deep, I
Yeah.
usually say in Spanish. So I say y punto.
Y punto. Oh, that's more powerful. Y punto. Oh, look, I can say that. A lot of
Yes,
Spanish words I don't say. Say it
yes.
again.
Y punto.
Y punto. I said that perfectly, didn't I? Okay,
Yes,
I'm
you
using that
did.
one. I'm phonetically writing it down right now.
Yes. And so,
I love that. I
yes.
love that.
And so I think, I was able to bring that feistiness into it
Yeah.
in being unapologetic about my light, because the shadows are always going to be there, and we're
Yeah.
both, okay? We are both. I have moments of thinking this is too much, I'm done, I can't do this anymore. It always shows up unequivocally. We're always going to have that voice because and I love this quote by Maharishi Mahesh Yogi. he
Oh,
says
yeah.
he says, love will cause anything unlike itself to come up to be healed.
Mm.
Love, right?
It's
So
one of my
when,
favorite quotes.
yes. Oh, I cannot believe it. I can't
Yeah,
believe it.
of course. I mean, now goosebumps all over my arms again. It's like just unfolding beautifully.
Oh my gosh.
So aligned. I knew when you said that, I knew what quote it was going to be coming.
No way.
And yeah, that when you went yeah, I knew which one it was going to be. It's just such,
Oh my gosh.
it's so
Okay.
healing. It encompasses and embodies you, and we all say it differently. I say marry to the process, divorce the outcome. Don't look at the outcome. You're saying concert. Don't look at the stay
Yeah,
in your power in this present moment.
yeah,
And that's where we make the movement. But
absolutely.
you say
Yes.
it so eloquently and so beautifully, and El punto. And I love the mix of languages because it's just you're in and out of the fire, the power, and
Yes.
the complexity of all of it. You're weaving your stories together through
Yeah.
languages. I love it. The power of words, the power of words.
Thank you. Something completely out of context here, but I think that is really interesting to me, and that might help someone who maybe speaks a different language, or whose caregivers or teachers spoke a different language. When I started to do inner child work, it was most effective when I finally spoke in Spanish,
Mm.
because that's my little girl, my inner little girl. That's what she
Ah,
spoke. And so if you were hurt
yeah,
in
at
another
that age,
language,
and you didn't
or
speak English
dialect,
at that.
yeah, exactly, or that was your predominant language,
Great connection.
yeah, it definitely is more effective when you call forth that inner power and that inner healing. So definitely love what you're saying here. But yeah, we're always uh trying to kind of squash our shadows and shame them and judge them. And what I have learned and come to believe, and that because that one of my books is called Dancing with Death, is
Yeah,
that I welcome their voices. I welcome the voices of my shadows. I give them poems. I write it out. I voice it out because I make it okay for them to exist, so that they know they have a place in me, but they don't overcome and overpower. And so anytime a so-called limiting thought comes up, you meet it with love and compassion. You meet it with gratitude.
mm,
You meet it with recognition and
yeah,
acknowledgement for the work that they are doing for you, because they ultimately are trying to protect you. And those protectors know the deepest pains that you've been through. And so that's
yeah,
why they want to keep you safe in a little ceramic, porcelain box and play music for you.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah.
when you meet it with compassion instead of shame, that's where true healing
Yeah.
can happen and true flourishing of your light parts.
Yeah, that is so eloquently said. I talk a lot about inner child work. It's a deep part of my work with people. I'm a deep dive. It just has to be. We've got to go there if they want to move forward. We've got to go back and see where the stories lie.
Mhm.
And you have taken your shadow work and you have fed it light, and you've created this incredible safe place for them to come out with no shame and say, "Let me feed you. Let me give you poetry. Let me." I love the way you articulated that.
Thank
Yeah, it's a beautiful. I will never talk. I mean, I go through stages of my child and I will talk to her if she's feeling frightened or scared, and I'll
you.
identify what age. But now I'm going to feed her poetry. I'm going to feed her light. Yeah.
Yes. Oh, I
Yeah.
love.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I always do the love and compassion and the gratitude. So grateful they got me here. So, so grateful every day they got me here through
Yeah.
so much. But I'm going to feed them poetry, feed them light, feed them bananas. I don't know. I feed them the ocean. I'm going to have a whole different relationship. I feel like you've just lit something in me that's now opened a door where I can have a different relationship. It's like I've expanded my capacity to love them
Oh,
even
I'm
more.
feeling it. I'm
I
feeling
know.
it.
Can you? I'm having like it feels like a hot flash, but those are long
Yes.
gone. It feels like a hot
Me
flash.
too. And I haven't
Yeah.
experienced it yet, but I feel that. I feel
Yeah.
that.
Yeah.
Yeah,
That
that
heat.
light, that heat.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. I love it's expansion. It's, the soul, the heart just wants to expand. It's so much expansion here. I mean, as your story grew, there was so much expansion. I could feel it. And the ego, that shadow work just wants to contract, and you're
Yeah.
going to feed it poetry. That was beautiful. Beautiful. What is your
Thank
favorite TED Talk that you're doing out there? I know you've got five right now, right?
you.
Five or seven?
Yes,
I'm not, was it five, right? Yeah.
5. I have organized several
Yeah.
events, TED events, and I'm most proud of organizing the very first one in Spanish in the whole history of TED in the United States, which
Congratulations. That is a huge achievement.
thank you. I'm really excited because that's what I wanted to do, and there was not a platform to do it. And now
Right.
we opened that door for
Wow.
speaking speakers to who are immigrants or descendants of immigrants to have a
Right.
voice. It's really important for everyone in other continents and
Yeah.
cities and countries to do it. But here in the United States, I feel like we need to elevate those voices as well. And so my
Right.
favorite TED Talk, I think, you know, it's so hard to choose, but there was this one that I did about the difference between intent and impact. And
Mm.
I tell it with a story about when I had a car accident at 19 years old. And at 19 years old, two very major, I forget that I have this, and I'm like, what's
No, it's your hemp. It's your hemp.
thank you.
The painting. It's so beautiful. When you put your hand up, I could see it,
Yeah,
and it's like, oh, it's so pretty.
yeah, they're so talented. Oh my God.
Oh, I know.
I'm in, I'm in
You
love.
brought a little piece of India home.
Yeah, I'm in love, in love, in love.
Yeah.
So for me, two major things happen, and actually my memoir is going to that I'm writing right now is going to be focused on those two experiences. And the first experience happened March 7th, and the second experience happened October 28th. So it's
Mm.
anniversary.
Oh
And
yeah.
and basically March 7th, I was going to school and I was kidnapped by a stranger. And it was the most horrible and uh, terrifying and painful event in my life. I was, really thinking that I was safe. I had moved to the capital. I was living on my own. And of course, I looked 12, but I was 19. And so this stranger trapped me in this car. He did vile things to my body and to my mind and to my soul. And I was able to escape, this horrible experience. And for 6 months, I was very angry at God. I was very angry with life. I was very angry with myself. And I was very angry at the court system because, he was captured, and then there was a trial, and all of these things were just a mess. And then October 28th, I'm starting the recovery process again, coming back from school. I have a car accident in which I'm the passenger. The car does a few flips and it lands on me. And when by the time I'm taken to the emergency room, they declare me dead on arrival. Thankfully, my brother actually begged them and they were able to bring me back to life. I was in a coma for 8 days. I broke 19 bones and had brain injuries. My lung collapsed. I mean, it was a mess. But I always tell this story with impact and intent because the way that the accident happened, there was a motorcycle that got in front of us and swerved. And so the driver kind of lost control of the car. And so I always talk about the fact how, because people focused on the person who was hurt, me,
Mhm.
I was able to get care. But if they would have focused on whose fault the accident was, and they would have stayed kind of in the blame game and whose fault it is and who is right, who had the right of way, and all of this, I wouldn't be here to tell that story. And so in that TED talk, I talk about how when someone is hurt, just like in physical life, in physical form, in tangible life form, we believe, in wounds, we believe in blood, we believe in swelling. We have to see things to kind of believe them, but
Right.
also in this invisible form, in this spiritual life, spiritual form, there are injuries that are emotional and mental and invisible. And we, in that same sense, we need to prioritize care. And we need to think about not the intent, like who meant to do what, but the impact of our words, of our actions, of our silence, of our inaction. And so I always love to take that story and say, because people paid attention to the wounds, and to the issues, I was able to recover. And in that same sense, when someone is hurt, let's forget who meant what or who didn't mean what or whose fault it is, and let's love and care and and tend to the person who is injured emotionally, so that then we can perform this, what I call communication CPR, and bring that relationship back to life, that person's energy back to life, that person's functioning, executive functioning back to life. Because the thing
Mhm.
that happens is that, let's say, Dana, I say something that is offensive to you, and I don't know, but it is.
Mhm.
And then you kind of retract and you're triggered. I can say, well, Dana, I didn't mean it. And you're going to be in your amygdala.
Yeah.
You really, frankly, don't care if I meant it or not. You're going to feel I am in pain. And unless I provide validation and I say, Dana, wow, I see that you're retracting and that you're in pain. How can I help? What can I do?
Yeah.
Are you okay?
Right.
What, and not like teach me, because that's not what we're doing here, but more
Right.
like, I'm sad that I hurt you.
Right.
Now that validation is going to bring you back to your prefrontal cortex, to your executive functions, to your parasympathetic nervous system, and you're going to be available for the next, conversation, which is, I didn't know.
Right.
I am ignorant, and I had no idea that this would
Right.
uh, cause you any harm. And now you're going to be able to accept that apology because you already know I care. So
Mm.
that's probably and it's a 18-minute talk, so I'm kind of summarizing and paraphrasing. But this is something that I'm so passionate about. It's
Yeah.
validating ourselves and others and understanding that in the moment of pain, we need to not be positive. We need to
Yeah.
be present.
Oh, I love that. We don't need to be positive. We need to be present. We need to feel. Yeah.
Yeah.
The love and compassion that you just exhibited brings, I think, back to our heart energy too, but back
Yeah.
into our bodies.
Yeah.
I think that when we get, when we're offended, I spent most of my life being offended, getting offended, I was triggered all the time and reactivity. And now it takes a lot to get me reactive these days. I really lean into love and compassion that they wouldn't know better or they couldn't know. And it's never, I always say this, it's never about me. Anything
Yeah.
that comes at me, it's never about me. It's
Mhm.
about they may not know. There's so much grace I have the ability to
Yeah.
apply, and that's where I go. But it wasn't always that way. It wasn't always
No,
that way.
and the secret of being that way is to practice. And
Yeah.
life is a practice. That's what life is truly is. It's a practice
Oh,
every single day.
yes.
But
Yes.
the reason why we're uncomfortable, yeah, we're uncomfortable and defensive about
Yeah.
pain is
Yeah.
because that's all we've known our whole life. I mean,
Yeah.
you see my 5-year-old, she actually uh hurt her lip because she was jumping. And so she cried. And the default mode for many of the moms in my community would be, oh, don't cry, honey, it's okay.
Yeah.
And it's not okay.
Yeah.
So
Cry it out. Cry
yeah,
it out.
I tell my
It
5-year-old,
hurts. Cry
I,
it out.
yeah, yeah, it's like, oh no, this is not okay. Of course you're crying. This hurts. And this is my formula, very, very
Mm.
eloquent formula.
I
Listen to
I
this. Listen to this.
I
Hold,
love it. Yeah, what
hold
did
them
okay.
and hold your tongue.
Oh,
Hold them and hold your tongue. So I just held her and she cried out and I just held her. And I didn't say anything because our positivity or our desire to help, and I call it the 3 A's: assurance, affirmation, and advice. It comes from us not being present to our own pain. So
yeah.
when we become present with our own pain and validating of our own pain, then it becomes a true skill for us to know all of the people who are in pain and to offer that grace and compassion to them because we have first offered it to ourselves.
Wow. I could talk to you all day. All day. All
Me too.
day. I mean, I'm just feeling up here. I just know our audience is going to love this. Okay. I know. I've kept you a long time, but I have to know one last thing. In your life right now, Elayna, what feels like love?
Ooh, what feels like love? Well, knowing that, I was on the other side of life, and of course it was beautiful, had divine and sacred encounters on the other side. But when I came back to life and I was breathing on my own
Mm,
again, just knowing how precious it is to be in your body because I wasn't, right?
mhm.
And to breathe, what a gift that is, and how much we take it for granted. Breathing feels like love. Like I don't need to put effort or to, pay a mortgage for this. I don't need
Yeah.
to even think it. I don't, I can be more conscious of it, but it
Yeah.
happens effortlessly and it's such a gift. So, I really bring that awareness to myself every day that I wake up. I'm not disappointed anymore.
Mm,
I'm just
mm.
grateful that I'm breathing and there's something outside of me that allows me to breathe and that provides the air for free. And what a blessing and what a miracle that is.
Wow. Well, that's putting things completely in perspective. Breath, life. It's beautiful. How can people find you now? What are you up to? Where can they find you? Are you still doing storytelling? Can people sign up for this? Tell us what you got going on.
Absolutely. Yeah, I do storytelling and I do story strategy. So I help
Yeah.
others tell their story. And they can find me everywhere. My connection page is thepositivemom.com/EF, like Elayna Fernández. And I'm on Instagram, TikTok, everything. You will
Yeah.
find me everywhere at The Positive Mom.
You
And
could, I can find you anywhere if I put the positive mom in,
yeah,
even if I don't spell your name, I put it in and you just came up everywhere.
yeah.
So it's like, yeah. And I thought
Yeah,
she's got to get on this show. We just have to
thank
talk. Yeah.
you.
I
Oh,
love spending time with you. I mean, it literally, I'm altered.
oh,
I'm altered.
well, so am
Thank
I. I think
you.
I found a sister.
Yeah.
Thank
Oh,
you.
absolutely. I'm like, I'm getting her number, writing it down. And I'm going to be texting
Yes.
her every day. How you breathing
Yes.
today? How you breathing today? Yeah. I
Yes.
love you. I
Oh,
adore you.
love you
You
too.
are just a gift. You're a gift. You're a miracle and a gift. And I'm grateful for you. Thank you.
So are you. Mwah, thank you.
Thank you for being here.